Former FBI Director James Comey saying during his 4-hour testimony yesterday that he wrote memos about his meetings with President Trump because he couldn't trust the president. That's right. Bob Bianchi is the former head prosecutor from Morris County, New Jersey. He joins us now early this morning with reaction to the testimony. Bob, thanks so much for coming on. I won't say that it was a great day for the president, but it did seem that there was some vindication there to some extent.
It depends on what point of view you're going to be looking at it. From a political point of view, it could be somewhat problematic for him. But I only look at it from a legal point of view, not a Democrat, not a Republican point of view. But what James Comey essentially was saying was there was enmity or distrust between these two individuals, and that he started documenting conversations, but he made it very clear, and we would know as the head of the FBI, if he had felt that anything that President Trump was doing was illegal, then they would have opened a file for obstruction of justice, and he didn't do that. I say the day before, based on the testimony Comey gave, legally was very good for Donald Trump, President Trump. It's the actions that occurred after Comey was fired that became a little bit more problematic for President Trump legally.
What specific actions are you talking about?
Well, there was never a connection, and there was not an investigation. And one of the things that was striking to me with Comey's testimony was that the president, understandably, and I represent clients, and as a former prosecutor I get, he wanted it to get out that I'm not under investigation because it was clouding his ability to do his job. That is a very legitimate and understandable basis. But when after he fired Comey, taking in the law what we call mens rea and actus reus, an actual act, and then followed up with tweeting that it was as a result of taking pressure off the Russian investigation, and gave the Lester Holt interview indicating he was fired because of the Russian investigation. He then made a connection between a thought, the Russian investigation and what was going on there, and an action, firing Comey. And that, in my mind, caused the FBI, I would have no doubt in my mind, as a former head prosecutor appointed by the governor through the Senate, the same way Comey is, opened up an investigative file as to whether that firing was motivated due to try to quash the Russian investigation. Yeah, that certainly does seem like a problem. It could be a problem. Let me ask you real quick about, I mean, this whole thing started with Russia, right? We find out through Comey's words yesterday that he doesn't believe President Trump had anything to do himself with Russia. But now we're talking about obstruction. So now we're on to this next topic that the president could be in trouble for. Do you buy Comey's reasoning for not reporting what now he's insinuating could have been obstruction at the time? Because now this all comes out. He had so many opportunities to try and report this before yesterday. Yeah, I know the public is confused by this, so I think that we have to understand the nature of the relationship that Comey has. And in fact, yesterday there were even comments by many Republicans about this. You're in a black box when you're an FBI person or a prosecutor. You get appointed through the political process, but once you're through it, you're supposed to be independent and uninfluenced at all by politics. And Comey was put between a rock and a hard place with that. So he starts documenting these things because, based on his testimony, which I found to be credible, if later on it becomes relevant, he has that information. But what he made very clear, in my mind, was that he did not believe that there was obstruction, that he was not under investigation. And to be honest with you, I, as the boss, President Trump being the boss, when he says, I want you to put out there that I'm not under investigation because it's compromising my ability to do my job, for the life of me, I can't understand why that wasn't done. I think that was a very reasonable request.
Bob Bianchi, thank you very much for joining us.
Pleasure.
All right. Thank you so much. More.